Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 7 of PRL LMP2 Le Mans Series. Today we arrive in Japan at the famed Suzuka International Circuit in our LMP2 cars. This is a track that should be a fantastic display of ultimate downforce and speed for these machines. You'll see it all live, as always, right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Ryan Jones, and alongside me today I've got Joe Peak commentating with me, and Sean Ambrose is our director using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get into it, let's dive down and take a closer look at this track with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard?
Well, there you have it, Suzuka Circuit. And Joe, 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles, 18 turns. This track is very historically set in stone in history, I should say. Moving forward, I think it's going to be a great part of motorsport for many more years to come. And it's these sorts of cars that just love this place.
Yeah, I think Formula One has really made it a staple in top-tier racing for sure. And in fact, like you mentioned, these cars are going to be somewhat similar to that because of the high downforce and the technical layout of it. But the thing is you can still spin those wheels up pretty easily. So much of this will come down to the feel of the car, how much control you have when you're on the limit. There's a number of places where you could easily see drivers spin out if they get a little too greedy. Places such as the exit of Spoon Curve, the cars can get loose very easily. Or, of course, the slow corners, think of the hairpin, and places such as that where they've got to get the power down as smoothly as possible without getting too hungry for the throttle. So it's mostly going to be about who makes those mistakes and try and offer up those passing opportunities, just because there's so many corners in such a short span around here.
Yeah, there most certainly is, and they all flow into each other as well, which is something I love about this racetrack. But as always, today's race is brought to you by Simsa. Simulation and Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net, and make sure you also go and check out the ButtKicker.com, because today's broadcast is proudly sponsored as well by ButtKicker. And ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Well, let's have a look at our championship, because after the last round at Le Mans, it was Paulo Munoz that dominated and got himself a little bit closer to the lead of the championship. But the top 3, there is 2 points from Meets to Modolf in second, 3 points from Meets to Quero in third. It is about as tight as it gets. Munoz is there in fourth, Nathan Lewis is fifth, only 17 points adrift. 3 rounds left once we've left Suzuka today, all still to play for this season. What about our race details today, Joe?
Well, today's race details, this is going to be round 8 out of 10, so they're getting down to the end of it. The tightness in that championship is stressful, I'm sure. They raced the Dallara P217, so the LMP2 cars that you see all across Europe, and of course, as the DPI cars over here in the States. It's a 60-minute race that they'll be running. It's open setup, and of course, they have incident penalties if they go off track too much. There's a few places where you can rack those up pretty easily, especially if you're pushing hard. At 13, they're going to get a drive-through penalty, and they'll actually be disqualified if they get up to 18. They've got some bonus points there you can see at the bottom as well, Ryan.
They do indeed. Those bonus points, how tight this championship is, going to play a bit of a factor. Team standings as well, not to be forgotten. Both incredibly tight, just as tight as drivers almost, when you consider there's multiple drivers accumulating these points. Punto CL Racing Red currently on top, but only 17 points back to Delta Sport E4K. That is, pretty much a 2-point gap in drivers by comparison with all those cars out there. Punto CL Racing Blue there in third, equal for fourth, Pure Sim eSports and TQ Engineering Green, and Rust Racing Steel back there in fifth as well. So let's have a look at qualifying. 15-minute session, and we are just over 6 minutes in. Currently fastest, Joe, it is Rodrigo Meats, but practice was unbelievably tight.
Yeah, there were less than a tenth between, I think, the top 3 drivers out there. But what was interesting about it, Mies was in there, Cuero was in there, but Modov's second in the points, and he was a little bit down both in the practice and right now in qualifying. They've got a lap in. Some of them have already got 2 laps in. But Modov's only in 8th right now, and he's a full 7/10 off the pole. So that doesn't bode well for him.
No, it doesn't. He needs to find some sort of improvement and at least get himself closer. He can afford a bad round, but he can't afford to lose too much ground. A few points at most. Here's Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes, and there's David Holland. Holland currently 5th as he comes to 130 yard into the final couple of corners. A very tricky finale to the lap, and his car slid, I think, coming off the first apex, and he's abandoned his effort and will dive to pit road. Tricky pit entrance at Suzuka. We'll have to look out for that in the race as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on as Modov gets just a little bit of the grass entering Casio Triangle, as it's called, trying to maximize his entry. Get the power down through the last corner and to the start-finish line. Does Modov improve? Yes, he does. Goes P4. That's the sort of improvement he's been looking for.
That'll be a sigh of relief for him. And you mentioned about the drop points and things like that. Well, he doesn't have any right now because he did not start at round 4. So he is really under pressure. It honestly makes it all the more impressive that he's as close as he is to Mies right now in the championship. Kind of a testament to his consistency.
It is good that the drop round is available to drivers over a 10-round season. Obviously, this is a hobby. This is fun for all of these drivers, Joe. Real life comes first, and at 10 weeks can be a big commitment for a lot of people until those drop rounds are in place to assist drivers who do miss just the 1 round or whatever, so that they don't get taken out of the championship. But if you use it up, you can't afford to have a shocker out there on the racetrack in terms of pace or getting caught up in incidents. As Fredes knocks himself up into the top 10 with that latest effort, quickly toes back to the lane, try to get as many laps in as possible. Ferraris, I think, just gearing up for a lap now in towards what is aptly named first corner. And David McDonald coming to the same part on the racetrack now.
Watch him cross the line. Looks like that's the start of one for him. Yeah, that first turn probably going to be one of the more likely places to try and see passes. Unfortunately, it's not going to be out-braking someone into there because you brake incredibly late down into that kink, which essentially you're braking for turn 2 more than anything, not necessarily or for the little kink off to the right there. If anything, I know a lot of people are expecting passes to be made into Casio Triangle, but that's going to be tough because of the 130R left-hander right before it. The drivers are on the limit through that corner. You can't quite take it flat out. So when you're behind the wake of a car ahead, staying close enough to try and attack is going to be tough. And well, there you go. Eisler demonstrates what you were talking about earlier with the the difficult pit entry.
Yeah, it is very troublesome. In the race, too, it can catch out drivers that are behind a car coming into pit lane as they peel off the road there, just on the racing line almost. Steve Gaiori in 15th. Can he find an improvement? Don't think he did. He is, in fact, just beginning a lap. Michael Overbay up in 9th at the moment. If he can find a 10th of a second, he'll go 8th, which will put him a row further forward on the grid. Rolling starts, though, as always, for this series. That is 4/10 off what he needed to do to find any sort of improvement. And Michel Ferraris, who we saw beginning their lap a little while ago, doesn't find an improvement about a minute and 45 seconds later on. Nathan Lewis just missing out as well. Only 4.5 minutes left in the session. David McDonald, what about him? Puts a tile on the board at least and goes 22nd. So everyone has now put in a lap time of our 25 LMP2s out there tackling today's race at Suzuka. Mauricio Cuero currently just over a 10th away from Meets in the fight for pole.
Oh, but he slowed.
Yeah, gonna have to go back to pit lane here.
I wonder if you got a cut course penalty in there. You can pick those up through the triangle if you take a little too far to the inside of either of those apexes. So you got to watch out for that. Holland looks like he didn't improve that time by as we watch Romig now.
And Romig, I think, found a place. His name shuffled on the leaderboard there. I think it was upwards, not downwards. David Fishman, no improvement. Byron Daly, definitely no improvement with a 3-minute time there. That's an outlap for sure. Christopher Richards, 25th. Going back to pit lane. Just got time to keep on going for another attempt. Rodrigo Munoz finds nothing. Karl Modov, can he go even higher than 4th? No, he can't, but 4th is good. It puts him in the fight with Cuero and Meets. 3 points between him and the championship. 4 spots between them on the racetrack in qualifying at the moment. Christian Iser's been in amongst the mix all season long. He's currently on the fringes of the top 10, along with Michael Overbay, their 9th and 10th respectively, actually. And DeHamel will stay 19th.
And at Lewis now in the number 27. He's got it up to 6. Let's see what he's got here. He's about half a second off of his quickest, so that's not going to do it for him. Now, you mentioned about the rolling start here, and that's actually going to play a part in how this race goes because when these tires are cold, this car is incredibly tricky. And the first lap around here with all the corners, you would think it would heat up fast, but I found when I was out there practicing, it took a bit to really get them up, but more than a full lap to try and get the grip that you want out of it to really charge hard around the circuit. So you'll see cars tiptoeing around much of the first lap because they don't have much time in that half warm-up lap.
Well, the track is actually reasonably cool. We'll touch on that a little bit later on, which is surprising to me given the fact that the date in Sim is set to what I believe should be summertime, coming into summertime at least, over in Japan, just above me in Australia. 13th for Ted Lowendijk.
I think it's in the northern hemisphere, so I believe that's this is in their winter. This is set in October, it looks like.
Just above. Yeah, you're right. Just above the equator. Close enough. It's on my side of the world vertically, at least. So David Fishman, 14th, 45.126. Doesn't register a time there. He will have to commit to this lap if he wants to go and put a time on the board again, because anyone crossing the line now can't afford to go back to pit lane. Paulo Munoz, 6th place, goes to 3rd. Good improvement from him.
Very good improvement. He was up 2/10 on that one, so up to the 2nd row. Let's see what Galaz has, as he's well down the order, down in 23rd. Looks like that lap did not count, so maybe that had an off somewhere. As Mies is coming up, our pole sitter, who's still got a 10th over things. Wonder if he can improve.
No is the answer there. Rodrigo Meets yeah, 2 seconds off his fastest, but he's still got another lap up his sleeve. Mauricio Cuero still hunting for that pole position.
And that pole position is going to be so important because
Yeah.
of the difficulties I was talking about with trying to overtake around here. If he's on the front row, there's still an opportunity. Let's just hope we don't have a Senna Prost moment down into the first corner.
Cuero was very restrained in the triangle. He geared himself up for a brilliant exit to head on to the next lap with the maximum speed. So look out for him in just under 2 minutes' time. Ted Lowendijk there. Don't think he found an improvement. Karl Modolf has been shuffled back to 6th place now after going up to 4th a little bit earlier on, struggling to keep the rear contained as he got the power down, and that ruins his lap. He will start no higher than the 3rd row of the grid. Chris McGrath crosses the line behind him and stays in 9th. Christian Eisler is currently 10th, the 44.580.
Ooh.
Does a 44.452 and goes to 9th. Finds one spot. And Sean DeHamel goes for a spin. Just keeps it off the tyre bundle around the entry to pit lane. Hugo Galaz is 23rd at the moment. One of 3 drivers still in the 1 minute 46 range. Comes to pit lane.
Yeah,
get some practice. Yeah, get some practice for pit entry ahead of this race. We are going to see pit stops play a pretty big role over the course of this one. Only a few more drivers left. Rodriguez not going to go on with it. Here comes Rodrigo Meets then, completing his final lap. It is not an improvement on what he's already done. But Mauricio Cuero is still to come. Through 130R. 130 degrees, the radius of that corner. And then into the Casio triangle. Look for the exit. It needs to be strong. Rear end needs to stay very well in line with the front. He's done a very good job with it. Maybe a bit wider than he wanted to through there. What does it look like on the lap time? Wow. 7 thousandths off what he'd previously done. So he stays second.
Lowendijk crosses the line, and his last lap not going to do anything. So that looks like it'll set our order for today.
Well, let's take a look at the starting grid. Rodrigo Meets has got the pole. Championship leader starting exactly where he wants to be. But he's got Cuero alongside him. Paulo Munoz, winner at Le Mans, starts 3rd. David Holland is 4th. Horatio Carquin lines up P5 with Karl Modolf alongside him. Michael Overbay and Nathan Lewis share the 4th row of the grid ahead of Christian Eisler and Chris McGrath.
Ignacio Freitas starts 11th with Sean Romig in P12. You got Ted Lowendijk in 13th and David Fishman in P14. The next row has Ferraris to the inside and Steve Gaiori in P16. Pablo Uribe in 17th will be followed by Bagai in 18th, and then David McDonald starts 19th. And rounding out the top 20, going to be Duhamel.
5 more cars on the grid. Rodrigo Munoz, Byron Daly, Hugo Galaz, Kenny Rodriguez, Christopher Richards. And that is everyone for 60 minutes around Suzuka. So the weather, as I mentioned, is relatively cool. 23 degrees Celsius, the track temp. And a fair amount of wind as well, gusting at 14 kilometers an hour, north-northwest. And that should give these cars a bit of a boost. Or in high-speed corners, what's going to be troublesome is could give them some crosswind through those turns. And when you are traveling at high speed, Joe, that can have quite an effect on the car.
It really does. And especially these things, because they have that shark fin on the back. It just acts like a sail, so it can pick you up. They really are probably going to be hoping that that wind stays consistent. If that's the case, it's not too big of a problem because you get used to how it's going to be throughout the race and you can adjust your racing line. But if it starts changing direction on you, hold on tight.
Best example is if you watch Formula One, how often they talk about the crosswind there and it catching drivers out. Some of the best in the world, cornering at speeds of about 200 kilometers an hour. These cars reaching pretty decent corner speeds as well, especially up through the Snake, that complex of corners after turn 1 that leads you up the hill towards the Antibanks curve. Dunlop, the Degners. This is a corner. This is a track of famous corners. It is a famous track, and these are famous cars. We're doing it right here on the Global SimRacing Channel, looking for the green in a minute. Field getting onto its formation behind the iRacing Porsche pace car. Very short formation lap, beginning just before 130R. Not long to think about the start for these guys then. Field will be left in the hands of Rodrigo Meets. It's the teammates on the front row. They are championship rivals as well. Pace car's off. Here we go then, it's Suzuka circuit. Green flag is out and we are underway, and it is a very even start from your front row. In fact, Mauricio Cuero is going to edge ahead and take it away from Rodrigo Meets as we head towards turn number 1. Cuero's in the lead of the race. Munoz slots into 3rd. Calquin, Holland, 4th and 5th.
So far, so good at the back of the field. That's where problems often can erupt, but it looks like everybody was tippy-toeing through there quite nicely. But they got to get single file through here in the snake.
Nathan Lewis and Karl Modov went side by side for a little bit. Modov wins out in that battle. And then up the hill through the anti-banks curve, so it is called, and in towards the Degners. Very tricky, 90-degree almost right-handers. Got to get the car slowed down through the first part and then load up even more through the second part. Slight kink before you dive into the hairpin. Sometimes you'll see some drivers diving up the inside here. Can be risky, but can also be effective for a surprise move.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is it's got to be a surprise, and you don't know if that driver ahead is going to defend very late. We did have one off, and that's it so far. Ferraris in the 36, just at Degner 2. No dramas, didn't hit the wall, and he's back running. Now, I would worry about Munoz if I was these top 3, Cuero and Mies, especially with the domination that Paulo put on last week at Le Mans. If he gets an opportunity, and they're all really stretch the boundaries there at the exit there, Ryan.
Yeah, so that was Horatio Calquin and David Holland, and they might have touched through 130R. They might have touched through the Casio Triangle as well. And now this is going to buy into the fight. Karl Modov goes to the outside, and now they're 3 abreast down the main straight. This is going to get a bit dicey towards the first corner if they don't back out of this. Modov picks up 2 for his troubles. Behind him, Calquin nudges ahead of Holland, and slipping through as well is Nathan Lewis. So that was a really bad couple of corners for David Holland. Caught in the wrong place and tumbles to 7th. Karl Modov, to the contrary, up to P4.
Lewis was incredibly smart in that situation. Early in the race, very few marbles around the outside of turn 2. And he just took advantage of that banking to squeeze around those 2 slow cars that were pinched to the inside. That's going to get him up to P6.
Taking opportunities when they come is going to be so important today on a track where we expect it to be rather difficult to pass, given the extremely high cornering speed of these cars by nature. Turn 1 being one of the few opportunities where it realistically can be done. Up front, Mauricio Cuero leads the way by just over half a second from teammate Rodrigo Meets. So it's role reversal from how they finished qualifying. Going to be interesting to see how that shapes up with what we thought to be the fastest car. Now languishing back in 2nd and potentially worrying a little bit about Paulo Munoz there in 3rd. Equal distances between those 3 cars. Modov up in 4th. What can he do with clean air? Calquin 5th, Lewis 6th. That's where the battle is now, Joe.
Absolutely. Lewis still being threatened by Holland. Oh, some wheel spin, I think, for Calquin coming off the Casio Triangle. This is exactly what I was discussing earlier on. Lewis has got a great shot. He's going to have the slipstream, but it's going to be a question of bravery. And unfortunately for him, Calquin's going to pick the inside. Oh, but he's still got the guts. Look at this.
He's trying. He's sticking with it. Oh, there's contact on the exit, and they're both off in the grass. Calquin's facing the wrong way. Lewis is going to rejoin the racetrack behind Christian Eisler. And where does Calquin end up? Gets back on the track now, but it is a long way behind, and it is just in front of Michel Ferraris. Here's the replay, Joe. How do you see this?
Honestly, I'd kind of put this one on Calquin because Lewis was all the way to the edge. He didn't do anything untoward, but Cal Quinn kind of drifted out into him. Watch right here, you'll see it. Just didn't give him enough space, and you need that awareness to know that if you still got a car to your outside, you have to adjust your line accordingly.
Yeah, it's tough. Calquin will argue the B-pillar rule. It's a phenomenon I've seen so much, and I think it's almost started with F1. I absolutely hate it, where the driver on the outside, you just force them off the racetrack because they're not fully alongside you. I absolutely hate that sort of racing, but it seems to be deemed as fair a lot more often than I would personally agree with. So we'll see how that one gets played out with the Precision Racing League, I should say. Sean Romig.
Look at this behind
We'll
them.
see some dicey action behind him as they almost went 2x2 at 130R, way off the road there.
That's Lowendick ahead of Fredez, along with Fishman and Uribe. I think Fishman might have something good. Oh, and they're going to bang doors. Unfortunately for Fredez, that costs him a lot of grip. And David in the 696 is going to move up into 12th. It's not over here for Fredez, though, because he's going to be under threat. They're going to go 3 wide, but Guy thinking about it, and then he backs out, Ryan.
Yeah, he backs out of that, tucked in behind Uribe. Fredez. David Fishman, I think, was the winner out of all that. It was a bit messy. And thankfully, at 130R, there is plenty of runoff to work with, so you can afford a little mistake and go offline there. But the incidents, you do pick up an incident point when you run right at that corner, and as spoken about with our race details, can't afford too many of them, because drive-throughs are a factor that can definitely play a part on racetracks where off-tracks are prevalent.
We're going to look at Eisler here. This is for 8th position. Looks like he's being chased by Lewis. The thing I'd be worried about, what we watched just now, was when they made contact, we don't know if they got a 4X out of that. That's a bigger problem than going off track a couple times here or there, because those 4X rack up quickly.
Yeah, they certainly do. Well, just 3 of them, and you've got yourself a drive.
Done. Yeah.
It doesn't take you out of the race, but an extra 2 or 3 pit lane job, it's worth, what, 25 seconds at the minimum?
Well, your hope for a decent finish is pretty much done. Even the leaders, at best, will probably be dropped down outside of the top 5 unless they got a monster gap to the rest of the field. So it hurts significantly no matter where you are, as Lewis is not afraid to get right up underneath Eisler here, but that compromised his exit. You got to be careful of that in the slow corners. You have to kind of set up so that you can launch off and not get too close to them on the way in.
Let's jump on board with Lewis here. I want to see how their lines differ through the snake, whether Lewis hunts for any sort of clean air or the like, as he tries to follow Eisler through a very high speed, twisting section of the racetrack. You can see how much lock he's having to put into the steering wheel to get it turned there. And out through Dunlop, winding on the throttle. He didn't lose too much, but certainly Eisler pulled just a little bit through there. You could see the gap go out.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You can have the steady car that's good in the dirty air, but you still can't follow all that closely. You're just losing the grip, and even if the car is sliding like that, you're just not as fast. This is where I think he needs to focus, is like I said, that corner exit, having the hairpin, just get yourself the launch, and he's not doing that right now. He's letting Eisler get away in the critical moments where he needs to try and use the lack of the needed downforce in the slow corners.
Worth noting, Michael Overbay is just in front. You can see him. And potentially Eisler will have an opportunity to pass him in the not-too-distant future. Certainly if Overbay makes a mistake. So this is an interesting 3-way fight for what is P7 in this race at the moment. They've all been leapfrogs by Chris McGrath. He's up to 6th from starting 10th.
Nice climb for him. I'm a bit surprised that Overbay has not been faring any better in this car, because they used to run a series with a Radical here in the PRL, and Overbay was almost unstoppable in that car. Now, they're a little bit different in speed, but, I mean, they're both sort of prototype-esque cars, and I would have thought he'd be fighting for wins in this one.
As would I. My eyes just caught a little battle down the main straight. Daly is wheel to wheel with Horatio Calquin, who's trying to recover from when that didn't work out a couple laps ago. Side by side exiting turn 1. This time gets away with it. He was on the outside this time and picks up a spot. Remember, he rejoined in front of Ferraris. So I think that's the first spot he's actually got back.
That might actually be the case. I'll have to check. So that only gets him up into 17th. And this is kind of a testament to the difficulty in overtaking here. If that's the case, you really don't want to be making mistakes like that and losing positions. It's all going to be about keeping it on the black stuff and keeping the car from getting out from underneath you.
Ferraris is that yellow and black car back in 19th that you can see for reference there. Just tucked in behind Byron Daly now. Might be able to capitalize on Daly's slight loss of momentum thanks to Carquin's move. Very close up towards Spoon. Does he look for the inside? No. Just backs out of it. But a strong exit. Could size up something down at 130R. Daly, very strong. Rear end working nicely for him as he applies the power. Up in front, here comes Carquin looking for another spot. Rodrigo Munoz going to be the victim. 130R, wheel to wheel. They both keep it on the black stuff. That's rare. But Carquin's in an awkward spot now.
Yeah, he was on the wrong side. Down into Casio Triangle. But he's going to set him up for the way out. Nicely done. He should have a little bit of a better run and the slipstream. But which side is he going to be forced to pick? Looks like the outside. Now, as long as Munoz holds station and breaks late, he should be able to defend here. But we've seen this work on the outside a couple times already. And indeed, wow, nicely done by Carquin. I think he was taking notes from Lewis when they had that incident.
Yeah, you might be right. It's incredibly risky, though, going around the outside anyway, really. But a lot of trust being put in on the inside car at that corner because you're slowing the car down while turning. Which is incredibly tricky and very easy to lock up and run a bit wide. And, well, if you're on the outside of someone when that happens, you're going to get nudged off the road. So he does a good job. A long corner as well, so understeer becomes a factor. But it works for him now twice in as many laps. And Carquin up into 16th. Munoz has now been pushed into the clutches of Daly and Ferraris. That battle still going on.
When did we miss Munoz getting overtaken by Modov here? Up into third. Did we cover that?
Been a mistake.
Yeah.
Because Munoz has dropped a lot. He wasn't far away from Meets and Coro, but now he's 5.5 seconds away. And Modov is 3 seconds away. Let me look at the lap times. The last lap for Munoz was not registered.
Yeah. He had a cut course at the Casio Triangle on one of the laps, and I'm guessing that's what happened the second time again.
Well, he might have had a cut track on the Casio Triangle lap 5, which wasn't registered, and then didn't clear it until he was already in lap 6, which was also not registered. That's my suspicion.
Yeah, good call on that. That looks to be the case. Now,
so let's have a look at the race leaders then, Joe.
Yeah, because Mies is still within 0.8 of a second. I think the problem here is they've probably got pretty similar setups being teammates, and that makes it all the harder. It's like what you see with Mercedes, where when they're fighting each other, they know the same strengths that each other has. So it's difficult to close up within attacking distance, and they're going to be extremely familiar with one another and how the other operates in the car, not just with the setup. So Mies has got to hope for either a mistake or he could potentially try and get tricky with the pit strategy.
This is interesting because, well, you mentioned their teammates. We know they're close in the championship. Team orders aren't going to work in this situation because there's 3 points between them. The championship lead is going to literally be decided by which one of these guys finishes ahead of each other at the end of this race. So you can't put team orders into effect. They're going to have to race each other. But you don't want to break the golden rule crashing into your teammate. There's still half a second between them at the moment. So let's go and have a look at P7, which is fractionally closer. It is Overbait, Isla, Lewis still.
Lewis on his own recovery. Remember, he was a little bit farther up when he also lost positions in that contact with Carquin. He's got a great run on Eisler, but not enough of one. I don't think he's going to have any opportunity down here in 1 and 2, and indeed, he's going to swing a little bit wide. Oh, almost a little too wide. You got to be careful putting wheels onto that AstroTurf because at times it can be quite slippery.
Generally always slippery over there on that AstroTurf. Now, Lewis, remember, I called out he rejoined behind Eisler when he made that mistake, so he too has made no progress since that error.
Yeah, that looks pretty similar to what we were calling with Cal Quinn. Oh, and a big mistake coming into Dunlop is going to cost him yet more time, so he's got to try and regain that ground. Now, I wonder if we could stay here, but I want to touch on the fight between Cuero and Mies, because remember, Mies took the pole position. That's a bonus point. That puts it to 4 points between them at the start of this race. I believe the difference between first and second is 3 points. So Cuero might not actually take the points lead away, even if he beats him. But if he does, interesting stat for you, Cuero hasn't won yet this season. It'll be his first if he takes it.
Well, Modolf is between both of them in the championship, don't forget. He was 2 points away. And Modolf is motoring along. He's running them both down. Top 3 in the championship are about to have nothing between them on the racetrack. He's 2 seconds away now, but last lap he was 6/10 quicker. The gap has visibly come down by another 3/10, I think, on this lap. Let's check lap times for you. So Mauricio Cuero is a 46.294. Rodrigo Meets is a 46.173. Carl Modolf is a 45.842.
Wow. You're right. He is gaining hand over fist. There's a reason these are the top 3 in the points right now. But here's the thing. He's starting to gain up to that wake at this point. I wonder if we'll start to see that pace advantage fall away once he gets within about 7/10 of a second here.
Yeah, and then he's going to run into the dirty air effect, and we might see it stagnate out until the pit stop's open. Undercut could be extremely prevalent in today's race. We saw pretty much everyone pit on the same lap last race because at Le Mans the track is 13 kilometers long and it was impossible to stretch fuel any longer or pit any earlier because you run out of fuel on the other side of the race. But at least here the track is only 5.8 kilometers long. You can definitely go for an earlier stop if you wanted, or even a bit of an overcut should you wish. 1.8 covers our top 3. Remember, Modolf started this one from 6. He was slightly lacking in qualifying, but he's making up for that with his race pace. It's 5.2 seconds back to Munoz, who was in the picture until that issue. And his lap times are not too bad comparatively, but that is Chris McGuire. He's had a spin at Spoon.
Let's see what happened here. I think this is a lone car incident. And that AstroTurf is being as slippery as we had warned. Watch him just get a little bit wide. This is easy to do because you're carrying a lot of speed in. This is the faster part of the corner the first half, and then you're going to try and brake on the second one. He barely dipped that wheel, and it just shot him out.
Did you see? He actually locked up on the entry to the corner. A little puff of smoke before he tipped it in. And that's what set him off. That set him up to end up off the track there and bolt slightly wide of that corner. So it all started back in the braking zone for him.
It's a really frustrating corner because, when you lock up like that, it causes you to understeer on the way in. And then on the way out, I mentioned it earlier, that if you get too gritty on the throttle, you oversteer. So there's just no way to try and feel good all the way through that corner.
On the racetrack, there are plenty of battles happening. This track may not be offering up overtaking opportunities.
Cal Quint had no problems.
That is Cal Quint. You just spied him off the road. That P16 battle just went by him, and he's rejoined 20th now.
It's another one with a lone car incident. He clipped the grass on the left side, the dirt, just coming out of the S's, and that's going to shoot him off to the right. Unfortunately, the barriers are very close. It's a bit old school here in that sense. There it is right there. And yeah, he's just got no chance because the car is flying so fast through those S's that, he was on a one-way ticket to the scene of the accident, as Brundle likes to say.
I didn't listen to the onboard there, but it appeared that he tried to remedy the understeer by putting more steering lock in as opposed to lifting off. and that might be why he ended up in the grass.
Yeah. I'm. My dad's gonna hate me for this. I was trying to coach him on iRacing because he always does that. When the car understeers, he just tries to steer harder into it, and I tell him that's gonna make it worse because the tires will overheat on the front, and you're just gonna slide way out to the outside every
Yeah,
time.
the tires just start scrubbing across the road. They're not gripping it or doing anything helpful at the moment. So we'll go to P10 now. Ted Lowendijk has been elevated up inside of the top 10. Chris McGrath is behind him after his spin. What a shame. Remember, I called him out coming up to P6, and now he's -1 from where he started. So he'll be disappointed, but the good news for him is he really didn't lose that much in the grand scheme of things. 6 seconds ahead to Michael Overbay, who is now 6. Bearing in mind, McGrath was a couple seconds ahead of Overbay, but still, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that McGrath, if he gets by Lowendijk here, can get to that group, because that group is Overbay, Eisler, Lewis. It's 3 cars strong. Only other car between himself and that, barring Lowendijk, is Romig.
Yeah, but we've already seen multiple cars who've made mistakes, have spent many laps behind someone who they should have better pace than. So all Lowendijk really has to do is stay steady and get the launch off of the slow corners to deny him any opportunities to get a run down a long straight. Now, Chris is staying within touch here. This could be a threat up to the Casio Triangle. Well, actually, it's not going to be a threat because there goes Teddy off the course.
I'd want me to give up the spot. He actually got a very good run thanks to that. Down this straight, and I wonder what he does here. Does he try to stick it around the outside of 130R, get the inside of the triangle? Not going to work out. I think he relinquished that spot in the end and let McGrath go through.
He almost had to because he was halfway off the circuit there. It's worth trying because you got that paved runoff. As long as you keep the car steady, you know, when you go halfway on, halfway off into that AstroTurf, you should be okay.
Fredes clawing onto this group now. See him, 3rd car in line.
This is bad news for Teddy.
Navy blue and red scheme.
I think that's the Punto CL blue team that's coming up behind him. I'll have to check to see how they're doing because in terms of points, the highest they had up coming into this race was Cal Quinn. And of course, well, he is...
teams.
Yeah. But in terms of drivers in the championship situation, they didn't really have much impressive-wise in terms of points. And Cal Quinn's certainly not going to be the one contributing the most there today.
But let's check back in on the top 3, because they've all lowered their lap times now. They're all in the 45s. Quero 45.8, 45.7 for Meets, 45.5 for Modoff, and there's 2.1 seconds covering them. Meets has actually fallen away just a little bit to Quero, and he's slipping backwards towards Karl Modoff.
And that's really bad news, honestly, for Mies, because Modoff in series past, most particularly in the GTEs, which used to run these Tuesday nights, he was diabolical with his pit strategy. He was great with fuel and almost always seemed to leapfrog at least one car or take the lead when he took his pit stops. So I don't know if he's close enough to threaten Quero, but if I was Mies and I was understood the 948's reputation, I'd be sweating a little bit and maybe try and watch him and do whatever he does in terms of pit strategy.
Well, 36 minutes remaining already in this one. I would say we're about 6 minutes away from the window opening, maybe 8-10 minutes away. We generally see stops happening around 23, 24 minutes away from the end of the race. Drivers tend to run as long as they can. Tire wear on these cars is not bad at all. They are built for endurance racing, so 60 minutes is a breeze, which means that you have enough tire life available to you that when the fuel runs out of the car, you tend to go quicker on the lighter fuel load. Less weight in the car, being the translation there, so you want to run as light as possible for as long as possible. As we go with our Simsa on board here with Karl Modoff.
Yeah, the only time you really want to try and pit early is if you come up on traffic. But because we've got a relatively small field today, and this is something of a longer lap compared to some tracks, Guerra has nobody in front of him. So those behind who are hoping to take advantage of that honestly have no shot. They've got to just try and run long and maybe go a lap or two different from those that are around if they're trying to leapfrog them.
The big talking point with undercut, overcut is generally tyre life, Joe. They're not taking tyres in the pit stops, but it's all about the clean air today.
Yeah, and that does make a big difference. Even though it's cooler out there, the more you slide them across the track, the more you take the life out of them, the more you take the speed out of them. The one that's a big concern for, I think, is Mies, because Modov had to take some time to try and close up on them. He had clear air ahead of Munoz. But Mies has been riding less than a second behind Quero much of the race. And that might be part of why he fell back for a brief moment. He's still at about 7 to 8 tenths behind his teammate currently. So, like you said, yeah, there's no point in really taking tires here because the drivers, the race is just too short. If anything, Mies needs to focus on trying to do what he can not to spin the tires like you saw a little bit there as he got a tiny wiggle coming out of the hairpin.
We'll see how this unfolds then, with just over half the race still to play. That P6 battle is now pretty much settled in favor of Overbay, and Isla has a little comfortable gap back to Lewis of about 6 tenths of a second. Romig is 2 seconds away in ninth. McGrath currently rounding out your top 10. There's Overbay. He's 6 for him right now. After getting by Lowendijk, by the way, McGrath is 2 seconds ahead of him. In terms of lap time, he's lapping quicker than Overbay. So, 6 tenths quicker, in fact. So, if he keeps it up, he might be able to get there. Bearing in mind, Romig, Isla, and Lewis stand in the way, but pit stops could allow him to leapfrog them.
Yeah, and if I was him, that's what I'd probably be thinking about. If he's got a spotter, he kind of needs to just keep him abreast of what's going on in front, and also kind of measuring out like they do in F1, seeing if he's going to get out in a gap. Because yes, you can try that undercut, but if you come out among slower cars, it's just like F1. You're just going to be hindered. So it's sort of pointless, and it renders any pace advantage you have moot.
It's a lot to think about for a one-stop race with no tyres.
Yeah, it's it's not often that we talk as much about that, especially in this series. But again, there is still traffic back there, and if those behind you do not pit early, then you need to be aware of that and play your cards carefully in terms of strategy. The way you win these races isn't just by the raw speed. You have to have the entire package all set up. Ooh, Modov is getting close to me. Sorry there.
He is 4 tenths. 4 tenths behind him on the live timing left of your screen. Head to GSRC.tv as well if you want to see all of the full live timing for everyone on the racetrack. Look at this on board with third place man trying to hunt down the championship leader who sits second on the road right now. Out of the Casio triangle, a snap of oversteer for Modov. That puts damper on the exit he gets. It allows Meach to skip away a fraction. Down the main straight, he'll breathe easy into first corner, but he is under a lot of pressure now. 1.2 seconds away from the race lead. These two can't afford to get into a side-by-side battle over a number of corners. That's the key issue here. If Modov wants to make a move, he needs to make sure it's decisive. He doesn't hold both of them up, because Quero's pace is not to be played with. He could easily skip away.
Yeah, these three have really been hustling hard, and you can't imagine that Quero is going to let up on that. He'll want that distance between himself and the pair. But like you said, Modov, I mean, easier said than done, trying to make it happen quickly. It's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation if you're the 948, because whatever corner he does it in, unless he gets a mistake from Mies, he's probably going to lose a little bit of time here. But if he keeps sitting back there, Mies has shown himself to repeatedly lose out a little bit time after time from Cuero. So I foresee that that trend continuing for the 88. I think you're right that Modov has got to try something because otherwise the status quo won't get him the win for sure.
For 130R, the gap to Quora and Meeks is staying stagnant. That's crucial right now. Ebbs and flows a bit as they go through certain corners. I reckon Modov might be happy just to sit and wait for a few minutes at least. Maybe look for an undercut and use the clean air to his advantage. We saw the sort of pace advantage he had when he eclipsed the gap that the top two held and ran them down.
What was interesting on that front stretch was that Mies drifted to the inside. Now, he was nowhere near needing to defend on Modov. That, to me, says that he's trying to break the slipstream a little bit, which I wouldn't expect that he'd think he's towing Modov along. Modov caught up on his own pace, and surely Rodrigo is aware of that. So I'm not sure. I mean, I guess you don't want to give them any advantage that they have, but he was offline all the way down the front stretch. We have lost a number of drivers. I do want to point out David McDonald, Steve Gaori, and Christopher Richards, unfortunately, have retired. Looks like the last one still running is Rodriguez, but everybody's still on the lead lap out here.
That is some good news for everyone in top 22, as Chris McGrath stares down the back of Sean Romig. So he shot the gap to him down. You can see the comparison. He was 7 tenths quicker on the last lap. And this is pretty important for Chris McGrath because he had got the gap to Overbay down to 5 seconds before catching Romig. Lowendyke, Romig's teammate, made it relatively easy for McGrath when he bolted off the racetrack at Spoon Curve.
It's starting to feel a bit like deja vu all over again, seeing another car in front of him exactly painted the same. But he's closing very quickly. In fact, he looked incredibly strong, even with the wake of the car ahead through 130R. I suspect that Romig's going to be relatively easy pickings because if he can do that again, well, if he even needs to wait till the Casio triangle,
should get him
down
here.
Yeah, he might have something here. A little bit of a defense from Romig. Comes back to the racing line. Chris looks to the inside. He's going to be brave, and yep. Didn't even need to wait very long. He is up to 9th now.
That was a confidence move. It looked easy, and it probably was a little bit easy for him. But a more tentative driver, a bit more unsure about what they're doing, might not have gone for that move because it was touch and go. Another 50 meters, and it would have been Romig's corner to have.
Absolutely. Well, part of that comes down to this is a relatively tight-knit community in PRL. And these guys race against each other week after week, and they have for years at this point. So they kind of know each other well enough to know what to expect. I have to imagine that was the case of Chris just essentially having a good idea of the way that Romig fights faster drivers. If he sees him catch that quickly, he knew that the 71 was not going to chop him off as long as he showed his nose.
The battle between Mies and Modov resumes. Maybe even a little bit tighter than it was. That's a mistake, though, from Karl Modov. He runs it in too deep to the chicane, and that costs him. Not only in the chicane, but down the main straight as well. Look at this. The gap is stretching.
We've seen a couple moments like that from Modov already. Sometimes out of the corner, now into the corner from him. I wonder if he's starting to feel the pressure to attack Mies, and it's forcing him to overdrive the car. Typically, he's a pretty cool character from my years of covering him, so it's unusual to see him get stressed enough to make a mistake in that sense.
"25 minutes left. Pit stops could occur on this lap for the race leaders. Maybe the lap after that. I think that's about it. Maybe they can go another lap further still. But I think we're right in the pit stop window, and this could decide the race. All about your pit entry, maximizing your speed in, being as committed as you can, carrying a throttle for as long as you can before diving onto the brakes, not slowing the car down too much, but just getting it to the speed limit right as you cross the line so that you don't lose any time there. And then nailing your approach to your box, making sure you don't slow it up too early, be too tentative. Don't overshoot it though, because that'll cost you time as well when you have to back it up. And then power down on the exit of your box, power down the exit of the pit lane, and away you go. And don't put too much fuel in the car. Has anyone saved any fuel enough to give them advantage in terms of their stationary time? A lot of factors at play in the pit stops, and here comes Quero then. Peels to the lane. Meat's going to keep on going. Modov going to keep on going. So Quero, the only one in on lap 1 from your top 3.
And
lap 1 of the window, I should say.
and he was leading that whole way, so he was probably sucking up a little bit more fuel than the others. That said, this isn't so much of a fuel-saving track in these cars. I wouldn't expect to see too many drivers be able to save more than a lap like we're seeing these drivers go longer. Holland is in, I see, over Bay. We also had a penalty, it appears, because Michel Ferraris was in and out without stopping in his pit box, so I believe he must have gone over the incident limit.
I'm just watching Quero stop now. Also in the lane are David Holland, Michael Overbay, Romig, Fredes, Uribe, and Bagai. So about 6 drivers in. Quero is gone. He's heading towards the S's now. There's David Holland also coming out of the lane.
And critically, the 79 has clear track in front of him. He's not going to catch anybody anytime soon. Daly's the next one up, and I don't think he's likely to get up to the back of that car. Looks like we're missing about half the field, so kind of a split strategy here for the pit stops.
Yeah. Right. Let's watch Meats and Modov. Let's try and, in fact, look how Modov has closed in on Meats without having Quero pushing extra dirty air into the factory. Just one car in front now, and he seems closer on this lap as they both pit. Let's bring up the comparison. Let's see how this compares.
Ooh.
As Meats really struggles to get it slowed up. Car slides in with all 4 tires locked up, it seems. There won't be a penalty for that. He just got it slowed up in time.
He hopefully did. He was a little over the speed limit crossing it, but you're given a little bit of leeway by iRacing.
Yeah. iRacing's more lenient than real life, I have noticed in that regard.
Question is, how lenient is it going to be? We're going to find out soon enough, because if he's got a penalty, he's going to have to serve it right here.
And where is Quero?
Quero's coming across right now. Mies is off, no penalty, but he's side by side with Modov.
Here comes Quero, cleans them both up. Is there going to be a penalty for Karl Modov? He was on the line, exiting pit lane with those left side tires. Hopefully, no unsafe exit for him as he takes away P2 from Arrigo Meats in the pit stop window. He closed in by just enough to leapfrog him with a great fight out of the lane. And now, just the effective leader in front of him.
What I tell you, Modov knows how to do these pit stops. He is the strategy master. So now that he's clear, can he get up to the 79? I think the thing that was a big trouble before was the wake of Mies and really not being able to attack. But, I mean, that said, he's bound to have pretty similar issues as soon as he catches the 79 if he's quicker. Credit
Has everyone pitted at this point now?
Yes, they have. And credit to Paulo Munoz, who, even though he's not within attacking range, he's still within 2.5 seconds of those top 3. So he's kept himself in touch, at least.
That's interesting. He was 5.5 seconds away before the pit stop window, so he found some time.
Looks like, let's see, slightly better all around in his pit stop. He was about a second quicker than the other three in his stall, and 2 seconds quicker from cone to cone. So he just maximized everything there in the 3-2-1, and that looks like to be what gained him the 3 seconds.
Good effort. Might bring him into play, despite the mistake he made earlier on in this race then. He's now 4 seconds away from them as they cross the line and timing updates. Still that's a gain of about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah,
Quaro continues to lead this race, Joe, by just under 1 second over Modoff, and Neat's only 1.5 seconds behind him third.
I wonder who's got their car set up to be good when the tires are cold, because even though they didn't change the tires, they are going to cool down when you sit stationary for that long and are just trundling along the pit lane. So being able to get out there and power off on your outlap makes a big difference. And it looks like Munoz has got a really nice handling car here, just getting them up to temperature, because, yeah, wow, it's still coming down. It's down to 2 seconds now.
Through 200R, which is, believe it or not, to a radius corner. It and 130R named in the same convention as each other. We're on board with Munoz and just spoon curve. Double apex left-hander that leads onto an important straight, which goes across the top of the bridge. Don't forget, this is a figure-8 circuit in Suzuka. The only realistic figure-8 circuit on iRacing that can be used for racing. There is the Irwindale figure-8, but we don't talk about that.
Mies is very close to Modoff. He got a good run out of 130R. Didn't quite go on the attack on him, but he was less than a car length behind by the time they hit the apex.
Across the line, 5 tenths between them. The issue for Neats is he's lost it now in the pit lane, and, well, Modoff proved you can't just go by someone if you're quicker than them. I think Modoff does have the pace advantage here. Might just be struggling to get his rhythm back after that pit stop.
Yeah, it's odd to see him suddenly be under attack this way, the way that he had rocked up to Mies so quickly before. And, oh my goodness. Munoz down to 1.3. Munoz is a rocket ship right now.
That he is.
So this is going to complicate things even further. Well, depending on if he can actually try and attack. Oh, nope. That's not going to allow him to do so. Just overcooked it into the hairpin. Never you get close to those cars behind. That's honestly, I will admit, that's one of my weak points, is getting closer and closer to the cars ahead. There's the temptation to overdrive it. You think, I'm right there. I got to get them. And then those mistakes will lose you the time that you had just gained. So you got to stay calm and continue to be consistent and hit your marks. I think maybe that's a little bit what happened to Munoz as the red mist came down and he got excited.
Yeah, that is probably the case there. Meanwhile, got the rest of the order. Cesar Bagay has found himself ahead of Rodrigo Munoz after the pit stops. Munoz was fractionally slower last lap, but he is only a couple tenths behind him. Bagay started this one up at 18th. He's now +3. Munoz 21st to 16th, so +5 for him. Both having relatively good races.
Got the former Oval Pro of Daly back there behind them too. I'm sure he's watching and encouraging Munoz to go on the attack with Bagay, because that'll give him an opportunity to maybe get into the mix of this fight. $16 minutes left to go, so only a quarter of the race. If you got something, you better start using it now, because, well, there's really no point in saving any tires or anything left in the cars. A little bit wide there. Looks like Munoz having some issues through two.
Daly really getting amongst this in 17th. He's +5 himself in this one. Started 22nd, and he was half a second quicker than Rodrigo Munoz on the previous lap. The guy, I think, is driving away from Munoz here.
And I think we had a connection issue with Ignacio Fredes. Oh, he's back now. Okay, he disappeared for a long, long time. 96 is got to be a little bit worried about that one, but let's stay here.
Just having a look. Taking note of the fact that our championship leader runs third. Our second place man in the championship runs second. And third in the championship runs first. They have reversed themselves. Michael Overbay, though, and McGrath are duking it out. And look at this. Out of the triangle. Down the main straight. This is for P8 on the racetrack. Overbay was the target for McGrath earlier on, but he's dropped 2 spots since then, and McGrath still trying to get by him. And they are very tight into the corner. There's going to be contact. There is. They're both off into the gravel, and both grabbed the wall. Overbay pushed and squeezed, and ultimately did not give where he should have.
Lowendick just says, thank you. I'll take that 9th place right back. There's our Procetta moment, unfortunately. Overbay, I understand him trying to defend, but the old Alonso line, you always must leave a space.
If he wants to take the inside, he needs to get across and do it in front of McGrath. Once McGrath got to his inside, he should have gone back to the left, because 2 cars entering a corner that tight is never going to work.
That was pure desperation right there, unfortunately. I'm more sad to see that Chris fell afoul of what went down there, because he had great pace, and that cost him a spot, and he's now back to 10th once again.
He's in quite the battle. Romig behind, Lowendyke in front, Overbay in front of him. He's passed Lowendyke once today. Oh, Fredes as well is in the battle. So 5 cars.
They do have stewards who do post-race reviews here too. I suspect that one's going to get looked at, and I don't think they're going to be terribly happy about how that went down. So I wonder if Lowendick, now that he's got an opportunity, could he maybe sneak by Overbay? Because Overbay could have some damage with that car contact.
So could McGrath. I think you're right. Overbay is the most likely to have damage. He took the brunt of the impact with the wall. It was relatively flush, though, with the left side.
Oh, Lewis is in.
McGrath sort of grazed it. And yes, why is Lewis in the lane? Penalty? Is he stopping or going straight through?
It's a penalty. Straight through. Oh, man. What a miserable day for the 27. Especially at it. He had a slight swing upwards in the very first few laps as he gained positions, and everything since then has been downhill, essentially. He started this in 8th. He's now in 14th, unfortunately.
Big shame for Nathan Lewis, then. This race not going to pan out the way he would have hoped. As 12 minutes remaining, the battle has ignited for PA in this race. Overbay leading Lowendyke, McGrath, Romig, and Fredes. And Fishman is trying to drag a rebate towards the group as well. So you could say this snakes all the way down to 14th place.
It really is. Romig looks the best placed right now. He's crawling up to the back of Chris in the 379. But he doesn't get the run that he needs off of Spoon. That was really the most important bit of that part of the lap. So he's not going to get a good shot. Look at how equidistant they are from one another, though. This looks to me like the wake is what's forcing them kind of to stay distant from one another, not really get the chances they want.
I tell you what, I heard equidistant be used for the first time the other day, and I kid you not, I have heard it 4 times the next 3 days, and I can't get away from the word.
It's a good word.
It just seems to be in use nowadays. Suddenly, came from nowhere. and 4 times in 4 days. So, Quoro continues to lead 1.2 seconds to Modov, 2.4 seconds to Meats, 4.2 to Munoz, who's falling backwards again, but still comfortable. 11 to Holland. Eisler's by himself, and then comes the P7 battle. All elevated a spot thanks to Lewis pitting.
Oh, here comes the 379. Now he's starting to go on the charge. He's closing in on Lowendick. There's Lowendick in the green and black machine, and the white and blue. That is Chris. He's closing in. He's within half a second. This is exactly what we saw before with Romig in the reverse. And what I said before, Chris has really got to focus on the corner exit of Spoon. Set it up so that you get a nice late apex here, that you can be solid on the throttle. It looks decent. Oh, nope, too much. Whoa!
Whoa! No, collected by Begay. Romig, sorry. Romig whacks the fence. He was left with nowhere to go. Just picked the wrong way to go.
Yeah, and it was understandable him trying to go to the inside. Watch why here. He sees the smoke. He saw the gap, but then he couldn't see that the car was suddenly going to grip up and drift off to the inside. So he made the decision he did with the information he had. Unfortunately, with all the smoke in front of him, it wasn't enough information, as it looks like the 379 has too much damage to continue.
Though, he did just spin, Begay. I called him out in the previous incident incorrectly, but now he is in an incident with Rodrigo Munoz at the Casio Triangle.
Is this related? Yes, it is. Oh, no. Rodrigo's going to give him a little bit of a punt from behind. Guys, not going to be terribly happy about that. They both lose a spot to Daly, actually. Wow, Daly now from 22nd to 14th.
That's a good lap for him.
I told you, it's all about keeping the car on the black stuff and keeping it pointed forward, and that's exactly what the 60 has done. Doesn't matter how you pick up the positions as long as it's fair, and that's what he's been doing, just picking them off one by one as they all fall like flies around him.
Well, Fredes as well had a good lap, picking up 2 spots. Got around Romig and McGrath, and now runs 9th. Unfortunately, he's a little ways behind Low and Dyke and Overbay. The cars that were bridging the gap between himself and them in the battle for P7 have disappeared, and he's no longer really included in the battle for P7. But with clean air, we'll see what he can do. Has got to be careful, because behind him, there's Fishman and Uribe as well.
This hasn't been too bad of a day for Teddy. The number 72 started in 13th. He's up to 8th position. He's still on the hunt for one more, depending on if he can do something with Overbay in these last 7 minutes. And the way things have gotten a little wild here at the end, I wouldn't put it past him to have a chance.
Seven minutes left to go. The sun is starting to set. You can see an orange tint towards the racetrack now in some places, and just a dark racetrack everywhere else.
Yeah, it's this, even though it doesn't sound that late in the evening, it's just past 4:40 p.m. virtual standard time. Remember, this is in October, late October, actually, Halloween, I think, within the sim. So that's why the drivers are getting such darkness here at this point in the race. Look at this at the lead, though. Modov's still within a second. Oh.
3.2 seconds away.
Oh, I think Lewis just retired.
That's a shame for Nathan Lewis. But Rodrigo Meats, his pace has just suddenly dropped. And he's been falling now. Away from the top 2. His last lap time was 8/10 slower than Modov. Before that, he was only a 10th off him. And on this lap, I think you're going to find he's dropped some more time as well. Compared to Modov. Yeah, he was 2/10 slower again.
Slightly better. I think lap 29 must have had a big error, or at least a significant error from the 88 for him to fall back as much as he did. That's really good news for Carl, because then there's less pressure from behind when he can really focus ahead and not think about, well, is Me's going to get a run on me if I go on the attack. And now he can really just put everything in to try and charge forward.
Five minutes remaining, minute 46 lap times. What are we looking at here, Joe? 3 laps to go when they cross the stripe?
Sounds about right. Oof.
I don't...
Modov had a big slide coming out of the hairpin, though, so that's going to cost him.
I don't think there's a way for Modov to get through unless there's an error from Quero. It's just too hard to pass, and their pace is too close together. Same goes for Munoz on Meats, which is suddenly a possibility because with Meats dropping off, Munoz has found himself staring at the back of Meats' machine.
Well,
this is definitely going to do some interesting things to our championship, though. Joe, go ahead.
I was going to say, can I play the M. Knight in here? We got a plot twist. They're catching up to Kenny Rodriguez. So for the first time, we might have traffic play a part in this. Oh, and now it's Quero who made a slide into the triangle.
Across the line, the gap, with a few laps to go. 46.18 for Quero, 45.8 for Modov. That's 4.5 tenths between them at the line, with Modov lapping 3 tenths quicker on the previous tour of this 5.8 kilometer facility. This is close as second place has been to Quero since the start of this race, even when it was Meats in there in second.
Modov's has got to be hungry for a win as well. He hasn't taken a victory since round 3. And with those 2 points up to Mies, if Modov wins the race, that will put him into the points lead. Now, between Quero and Mies, actually, I think if Quero wins, I think that will put him into the points lead if he stays put.
Should do. Despite the bonus point for Meats' pole, he should just take it away. Modov should retain second. He'll probably still be behind Meats. I'd expect it to be a couple of points in favour of Quero. Back to Modov and Meats, very, very close together.
Boy, attrition was a little bit higher than I expected today. We've only got 19 finishers out of 25 starters, at least currently.
3 early retirements and then a couple of mid-race retirements.
You can see how close he gets under braking. Again, it'll have to be a bit of a Hail Mary if he's just the tiniest bit closer than that. But it's going to be hard to get much closer, even though he is applying the pressure. Now, watch this. This will be a good example as we ride on board because he's very close now that we've had 2 very long straight sections of this lap. And then they're going to come into the S's, and he's just going to lose it all right back in the wake.
Now, this may be the land of the rising sun, but the sun is well and truly setting right now over the horizon and on this race as well, with a lap and a bit left to go. 2 minutes, just a handful of extra seconds left on the clock from Mauricio Quero to try and go light to flag after starting from second, getting the jump over his teammate, who I suspect probably counted him down to the start of that race, and it may have worked against him. Quero has taken advantage of being the only car in clean air. But that laps car's coming up. Kenny Rodriguez will affect the pace of Quero. Would allow Modov an opportunity.
Still a couple seconds up the road. They haven't caught him as quickly as I thought. If they do, it might not be until the last few corners. And in that case, Kenny's got to be big heads up and make sure and pull out of the way at the right time so that he doesn't play a part in this fight.
Well, right now, Quero is getting a bit of a slipstream. Just a faint one towards 130R. 286, the mid-corner speed for Quero. 290 for Modov. 292, actually, for Modov through 130R. So he was quicker than him there. Out of the triangle, it's wide, and it's a slide for Quero. Here we go. There is just one more lap remaining, and look how close Modov is. He's got the slipstream down towards the first corner. He's going to have a look to the inside. Defending is Mauricio Quero. trying to go the long way around for the lead of the race. On the final lap, side by side, they touch and they rub doors, but they still run wheel to wheel. Now, through the snake, the S as we go. Quero edges ahead. Modoff is still there. Now Modoff edges ahead. Quero and Modoff. This is the first time they've been side by side all race. Now there's a nudge and a slide, and Modoff has to relinquish. And Quero somehow retains the lead of the race.
Elbows out, boys. That's exactly what Modoff needed to do. He was just shy. I'm not sure if he's got enough left to try that again. If he does, I mean, the racing gods are clearly on his side here, because I thought for sure that would be his one and only shot.
That was fantastic for them to get through that section.
Ooh, here we go.
Side by side, but look at that exit he got from the hairpin through 200R. Already Quero is defending for Spoon, but Modoff is motoring, looking to the outside for Spoon curb. He's got a nose ahead. The long route for Modoff. He's going to get a good exit here. He's going for the crossover as Quero threw it in. Modoff crosses over and gets the run down the back straight. Quero has led this entire race. Modoff looking to lead just one lap. The final lap through 130R for the final time today. Modoff to the lead of the race. Quero had to back out of it. And onto the brakes, into the Casio triangle. A lock up from Modoff. Can Quero come back? He gets there. He's got there. He gives him a touch. But out of the last corner, Carl Modoff leads one lap and wins at Suzuka.
Wow. Whatever sacrifice he made to the racing gods today, Modoff made them happy. That was incredible. Can we watch this again? This is just stunning.
This was
something else. I thought Modoff threw it away right here, but I think the little bit of curb and the slip that you saw at Quero is the one thing that cost him what could have been the victory. And in all that, Mies wasn't able to gain to try and take the victory away. He was very close at the end.
He was only 6 tenths away at the line there. 1.6 away from Munoz. Them going side by side for just a couple of corners shows you how much they set each other up. Wow. What a finish to this race. We did not see that coming. Well, let's go to a break here on the Global SimRacing Channel, but stay with us. Coming back on the other side of this, your full results and interviews from Suzuka in the PRL LMP2 series. Welcome back to Suzuka Circuit, catching our breaths from an incredible final lap of racing. This is how your full results look then. after 60 minutes in total. Kyle Modoff takes the win from Mauricio Cuero, who led the whole race except the lap that mattered. Rodrigo Meets comes home in third after starting on the pole. Paulo Munoz is fourth despite a mistake early on. David Holland comes home in fifth. Christian Eisler is sixth ahead of Michael Overbay in seventh. Teddy Lowendijk in eighth. Ignacio Rodriguez, Fredes in ninth, and David Fishman 10th.
Pablo Uribe took P11, climbing up from 17th. Didn't really cover him all that much, but it was a good, steady climb for him. Sean Romig finished 12th with Byron Daly, 22nd to 13th. Cesar Bagay in 14th was followed by Rodrigo Munoz in the 15th spot. He qualified 21st, so another one that gathered up a few P's as the day went by. Sean Duhamel was 16th and Horatio Calquin 17th. Looks like 18th for Galaz. Rodriguez, last one to finish and on the lead lap, 19th. DNF for Lewis, and DNF, unfortunately, for all these drivers down behind him.
Yeah, McGrath, Ferraris, David McDonald, Gaiori, and Christopher Richards. What a race. And let's have a chat to Kyle Modoff. Wow, 6th to 1st on a track where passing was difficult. You led one lap. That's the only one that mattered.
Yeah, wow, what an incredible race. That was awesome. You know, at this track with these cars starting 6th, my hopes for a win, I was, thinking with a great race and some mistakes by others, I might be able to get to 3rd, but was just able to kind of keep plugging in good laps. And man, I'm pretty pumped about that one. That was one of the most intense, fun races I've had in quite a while. So great job, Mauricio and Rodrigo and everyone, Horatio and David on the first opening lap. It was just, from nonstop, something was happening. So I think I lost about 4 or 5 pounds on sweating here, but yeah, that was incredible.
You had some really good pace and clean air, Kyle. We saw it initially when you closed in on the top 3. And then, well, I guess again at the end. But qualifying, it just didn't translate. What was the deal there? Why were you back in 6th?
Optimal to do a 43.8, which, I'm sure everyone had a faster optimal than their lap. It was there. It was just really hard to put together. The S's and all these sweeping corners around this track, they're so tricky. So, if you're just a little bit off at one part of it, you really lose a lot through a large section of the track. So a little mistake here, 3/4 tenths, and I just didn't put it together. I thought I had enough good runs at it. I didn't run into any traffic or really make any mistakes. It's just I never put a full lap together. So felt more comfortable, to be honest, on the heavy fuel load of the race set. So as soon as we got racing, I felt much more at ease than with the quali set that kind of failed really on edge for me.
So talk us through that battle on the final lap, trying to get to meet Cuero. How?
Man, I don't know. There was a few laps earlier where I'd gotten really close to him because he had made a slight mistake, and that allowed me to get close and get a kind of almost a run into the chicane. And then he was smart. He got a great exit, and so I didn't know how I was going to be able to get to him. And he just made a slight mistake and slid the rears. I think coming onto the back chute, which allowed me to get close. And then, exiting the chicane, I think he got sideways enough with wheel spin to where the TC engaged, which in these cars is very aggressive. And that allowed me to get a run on him. And then from there, it's just like, hold on, it's the last lap. I'm going to go full send through this. I know he is too. And I think we bounced off each other probably 3-4 laps that last lap, but I felt like it was pretty fair from both sides. And, just incredible race. You just one of those things you always just kind of keep pushing and focus, and you just hey, the only thing I can do is stay close to him here, and today it worked out, and he made a slight mistake, and I was able to take advantage.
Well, congratulations. That was one of the all-time great finishes here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Who do you want to thank for helping you get there and get it done?
I'd like to thank Delta Sport, Move Up Lynchburg, Race Factory, Driven Texas, Unified for Kids, all my family and friends, my wife, everyone for watching, and then GSRC, PRL for organizing everything. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Congratulations once again. Good job. We'll probably talk to you next week.
Cheers. See you then.
So that was Kyle Modoff coming home with an unlikely race victory, and now Joe Peak is standing by with our runner-up, Mauricio Cuero.
Mauricio, commiserations, although that was a lot of fun to watch from our end. Talk to us. Let's go back to the very start when you and your teammate were off the line. Were you two in communication on when you were going to start that, or did you just time that one perfect?
Paulo is going to translate me, please. Um,
Ah.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand the question. Yeah, I understand the question. Me dijo que, claro, el tema del inicio. Sí, había hablado con Rodrigo. Él me dijo que empezáramos en el 1, pero entre el 2 y el 1 se demoró demasiado y yo obviamente aceleré cuando iba a decir 1 y nunca lo dijo y por eso yo partí adelante, la verdad. Pero fue netamente como una desincronización en el timing del conteo.
So, well, hello everyone. First of all, he said he spoke with Rodrigo before the race started. They were in chat throughout the race, and they said that they were gonna go when he went 1 in a 3-2-1 countdown at the start, but Mauricio went on 2 by mistake, and well, it was kind of a mistake on his part, but it's all good.
Coming to the end, it looked like you had command of the race pretty well the whole way. What happened that allowed Modov to not only catch up to you, but then also attack and get by?
Bueno, dicen que tuviste el comando de la carrera de principio a fin. ¿Y qué pasó que permitió que Modov no solamente se acercara, sino que también terminara pasándote?
Comenzando del principio, Moff siempre iba demasiado rápido. Con Messi íbamos diciendo que no nos explicábamos por qué iba tan rápido, en verdad. Y claro, al final fue error, fue netamente error. Se empezó a acumular errores y acumulando errores, al fin y al cabo, cuando empiezan a alcanzarnos. Y en la horquilla, el control de tracción se activó. Comenzamos el paralelo ya para llegar a Spoon y ya no tuve nada más que hacer. Creo que fui demasiado. Arriesgué muy poco en la 130R. Tenía que haber arriesgado un poco más para poder lograr ahí paralelo.
So from the start, Modov had incredible pace. He was actually talking with Rodrigo in chat, and they were mentioning like the fantastic pace Carl had. So he thinks that he was always going to catch up, but he started to make very little mistakes. Mauricio did. That helped Carl get a little bit closer and be able to pass at the end. Mauricio feels that he was very safe on 130R, that he could have risked it a bit more to go side by side through the chicane as well.
Always ifs, ands, or buts that we can ask ourselves about afterwards. One last question for you then. You're still winless, which is kind of shocking considering how close the fight is in the points. Can you get one in the final 3 rounds?
Bueno, la última pregunta, Mauricio, te dicen que te falta el triunfo increíblemente, no se entiende cómo, y preguntan si es que en las últimas 3 rounds crees que puedes ganar alguno.
La verdad es que esta es la segunda oportunidad que pierdo por ganar una carrera. La primera fue en Road America, ahora era una clara opción de ganar. Pero las que vienen, la verdad es que puede ser Spa. Spa, una de las pistas que igual me gusta mucho. La he girado demasiado. Tuve unos buenos resultados en las 24 horas de Spa con mi equipo, así que vamos a ver qué sucede en el futuro.
Well, Mauricio says that this is the second chance that he's missed on the win. First one was at Road America, and coming to the final 3 rounds, he thinks that he might be able to win at Spa, which we are not racing as I'm seeing now. So yeah, but he's definitely confident that he can win one.
Well, we hope for the best. I know how much that can hurt sometimes, missing out on multiple victories. Congratulations on a podium, and hope to talk to you more later.
Yeah.
Mauricio. That was Mauricio Cuero, second. And I believe, Ryan, you have caught up with our third place finisher, Mies.
Yeah, Rodrigo Meets, good job on the podium again today. A solid result for the championship in terms of points haul, but you started on pole. Are you maybe a little bit disappointed with not being able to transfer that?
Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, I'm not really happy about the result. I had the pace uh, for go for the win, but I don't know what happened. The car fell off after the pit stop, especially, and I couldn't keep up the pace. So yeah, a bit frustrated with the situation. But anyway, Mauricio and Carl did an amazing job, an amazing fight on the last lap. So yeah, not really happy about it.
Well, what happened at the start of the race? Because you had the pole, your teammate alongside you, and then you lost a lead immediately. My theory was you'd counted him down to the start and maybe worked against you.
Yeah, I when I decide to go for the start of the race, my accelerator had some kind of a problem, and I had to lift and push it back. So in that little moment that I lifted and pushed the accelerator, Mauricio took advantage and got into the lead. So yeah, no, it wasn't the best race that I wish it was, but yeah, I had very good points from the championship. I think Carl now is first on the championship, so I have to work harder to fight for it.
Yeah, so talk us through your championship. You got 3 rounds left to go. How confident are you of getting it done?
I will every single minute that I have for another things that isn't university, I will use it on practicing for the race because I'm not having so many free time with the university, that kind of exams test. So yeah, I will look forward to put a little more time when I can, obviously, uh, into practicing.
All right. Well, best of luck with it. Who are the people and sponsors that help you do this week in and week out?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to my team, to my teammates too, Mauricio, Horacio, to my family that was watching, my mom, my dad, my brothers. I want to say thanks to my friends, Javier Alaguasa, no sé quién más se me olvida. Yeah, but that's all.
Hey, well, thank you for joining us. Good job once again today, and best of luck next time out.
See you guys. Thank you.
That's Rodrigo Meets coming home in third at the end of Suzuka's race today, Joe. And I think that just about does us for today. So, big thank you goes to Simsa and ButtKicker for their continued support of the series, and Precision Racing League as well for bringing it all together. Big thanks to Joe with me in the comments box today, and Sean behind the scenes. And of course, none of it possible without the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts, listed here on your screen, along with June Long, who provides all of our music. If you want to find out more about GSRC, you can find it on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Grant. Don't forget to hit subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Check out our screen now for upcoming races and check them out and mark them down if you're interested. But from all of us here in the booth, thanks for joining us, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.